If I left my bi partner of 15 years after she told me she would like to explore sex with women. I'm a 39-year-old man, and for the past 15 years, I've been in a committed relationship with my partner, Jane, 37F. Jane is bisexual, something I've known about for years, though it never really played a major role in our relationship, at least not until recently. What I thought was a solid, loving partnership has been thrown into turmoil over the last few weeks, leaving me questioning the foundation of everything we've built together. The crux of the issue? Jane recently confessed that she wants to explore her bisexuality with women. To make sense of this situation, let me start from the beginning. 15 years ago, Jane and I met at a mutual friend's party. We hit it off immediately. She was vibrant, funny, and had a way of making everyone feel like the most important person in the room. I was drawn to her energy, and she told me later that my calm demeanor made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt before. Over time, we discovered shared interests, dreams, and a sense of humor that made life together feel effortless. For the first few years, things were incredible. We'd have deep conversations, spend late nights cuddling, and make plans for the future. She confided in me early on that she was bisexual. I respected her honesty, and it didn't faze me because I knew she chose me, a man, to be her partner. At the time, I didn't fully understand the complexities of her bisexuality, but I saw it as just another part of the person I loved. As the years passed, we built a life together. Though we never married, neither of us believed in the institution. We treated our relationship with the same level of commitment. We bought a house, supported each other's careers, and celebrated milestones. Jane often joked that we were better than married because we stayed together purely by choice, not out of obligation. I always thought she was right. Around 7 years ago, our sex life began to falter. At first, it was subtle. We'd go from having sex several times a week to once or twice a month. I chalked it up to the stresses of adulthood, work, bills, responsibilities. But as time went on, the gap between our desires became more apparent. I've always had a higher libido than Jane, and while I tried to be understanding, it began to take a toll on my self-esteem. Jane assured me that she loved me and was still attracted to me, but the infrequency of our intimacy left me feeling undesired. We talked about it occasionally, but the conversations never seemed to lead to any lasting solutions. I suggested counseling a few times, but Jane seemed hesitant, saying she didn't think our problems were big enough to warrant professional help. Things took a turn for the worse about 5 years ago when Jane began openly exploring her identity as a bisexual woman. She joined online communities, started reading queer literature, and even attended a few LGBTQ+ events. I was proud of her for embracing who she was, but I couldn't help feeling like an outsider in her journey. While she reassured me that her bisexuality didn't diminish her love for me, I sometimes wondered if it played a role in the decline of our sex life. A few weeks ago, Jane suggested we see a sex therapist. She framed it as an opportunity to work on our communication and address the libido mismatch that had plagued our relationship for years. Though I was reluctant at first, I agreed, thinking it could help us rekindle the spark we once had. I went into the process with hope, believing that we were both committed to strengthening our relationship. Last Friday night, however, Jane dropped a hint that left me unsettled. We were cuddling on the couch, and she mentioned that the therapy sessions might involve some new things in our relationship. When I pressed her for details, she brushed it off, saying it was nothing major and that we'd discuss it with the therapist. Her vagueness bothered me, but I didn't push further. Later that night, we had sex, but it felt disconnected. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next day, Jane tried to initiate sex again, which was unusual for her. I declined, citing that I wasn't in the right headspace. By Sunday, the tension between us was palpable. Jane asked if we were okay, and I responded, "I don't know. You tell me?" She assured me that she loved me and wasn't planning to go anywhere, but her words felt hollow. I couldn't ignore the sense that she was withholding something significant. On Monday, an hour before our therapy appointment, Jane finally came clean. She told me she wanted to explore her bisexuality with women. She said it wasn't about me or our relationship, but about her desire to experience something she'd never had the chance to. She said she didn't want to reach old age with regrets and insisted that this was a personal need she couldn't ignore. I was devastated. After years of struggling to improve our sex life, to hear that she essentially wanted to fuck other people felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't understand how she could claim to love me and our life together while asking for something that felt so fundamentally incompatible with the monogamy we'd built our relationship on. I barely spoke during the therapy session, too overwhelmed by betrayal and heartbreak to engage. That night, I took off work to have a deeper conversation with Jane. I told her I felt like she was holding back and asked her to be completely honest. After some hesitation, she admitted that she not only wanted to sleep with other women but had specific people in mind. She thought this would reassure me as it wasn't about seeking random hookups, but it only made me feel worse. Knowing she'd already picked out potential partners made the situation feel even more premeditated and hurtful. Jane insisted that she wanted to work on our relationship with the therapist before introducing the idea of an open relationship. She framed it as a long-term goal, something that wouldn't happen immediately. However, when I asked what would happen if, after therapy, I still wasn't okay with opening up our relationship, her response was chilling. "Well, we'd need to unpack why you feel this way." That was the final straw for me. Her words made it clear that she saw therapy as a way to change my mind, not as a space for mutual understanding and compromise. I realized then that we were fundamentally incompatible. Monogamy wasn't just a preference for me, it was a core value. The idea of unpacking why I wanted a monogamous relationship felt as absurd and invasive as asking someone to unpack their sexual orientation. The next morning, I began looking for a new place to live. Though we were never married, disentangling 15 years of shared life felt no less daunting. I've been overwhelmed with sadness, anger, and confusion. Part of me wonders if I'm making the right decision, while another part feels like I have no choice. Staying in the relationship would mean sacrificing my own boundaries and self-respect, and I can't do that, not even for someone I love as deeply as Jane. I've also grappled with questions from well-meaning friends. Some have suggested compromises like trying a threesome, but that idea feels unbearable. My confidence in our relationship and my own sexuality is at an all-time low. Knowing that I'm not enough for Jane, that she's seeking something I can never provide, makes the thought of sharing her with someone else excruciating. I've realized that this isn't just about her exploring her sexuality, it's about the fundamental misalignment of our needs and values. I'm not interested in that, to be honest. My ego with regards to my sexuality is at an all-time low. I clearly am not enough for Jane. So even if we bring another woman into our bedroom, am I really going to enjoy that fantasy? I think unlikely. It will be something new and fun for her, and I won't ever be able to unsee that fact or compete with it. I think this would probably wreck me even further. Let's read some comments and suggestions. First comment. This is something that frustrates me so much in modern discussions about relationships and life goals. It seems like there's this pervasive attitude where people feel the need to put others down to validate their own choices, and it's particularly noticeable when it comes to the polyamory versus monogamy debate. Personally, I've encountered situations where polyamorous individuals have dismissively looked down on monogamy, almost as if they've reached some higher level of enlightenment and feel the need to pity those of us who prefer monogamous relationships. They act as though monogamy is outdated or inferior, which is both patronizing and unfair. Similarly, I've faced judgment for wanting what some might consider traditional life goals. When I've mentioned that my dream is to get married and have a family, some people have outright laughed as if my aspirations are quaint or unworthy. It's even more disheartening to see how hostile people can be toward the idea of having children. In some circles, there's a near celebration of being child-free, which they describe as liberating or enlightened, while simultaneously looking down on those of us who view children as a fulfilling and meaningful part of life. The irony is that many of these same people claim to be advocates of open-mindedness and acceptance. They often argue that we should all live and let live, allowing people to pursue the lives and relationships that make them happy without judgment. Yet, in practice, they can become exactly what they claim to hate: judgmental and dismissive. Personally, I think polyamory is great if that's what works for you. I truly hope those individuals find happiness and fulfillment in their choices. But that respect needs to go both ways. Don't pass judgment on me for wanting a committed, monogamous marriage with children. To me, what makes a relationship truly special is the deep, unique connection and intimacy shared between two people. It's not just about physical attraction or fleeting passion. It's about a bond that transcends those things and creates something truly meaningful. That's the secret ingredient that elevates a relationship beyond mere lust or companionship. Everyone should be free to seek and define their version of happiness, but it's important to respect others' choices along the way. Second comment. The best course of action in a situation like this is to leave. This is the moment where you're most vulnerable, where she's likely to try and manipulate your emotions or perception of the situation. It's often at this point that people will attempt to reframe their unreasonable or selfish demands as completely normal, rational, and even loving. Her hope is that you'll be unsure enough in yourself or your beliefs that you might question your instincts and fall for her narrative. Don't let that happen. Leaving now is the best way to protect yourself, not just emotionally but also from the inevitable fallout that could occur if you stay. If you stick around and end up catching her cheating in the future, she'll almost certainly turn the tables and blame you for her actions. She'll argue that you forced her into it by not agreeing to her terms or being open-minded enough, making her betrayal somehow your fault. This kind of emotional manipulation is a hallmark of someone who prioritizes their desires over mutual respect and trust in a relationship. You deserve to be with someone who values your boundaries and respects your needs as much as their own. A healthy relationship is built on mutual understanding and compromise, not on one person trying to strong-arm the other into agreeing with their perspective. By leaving, you're not just protecting yourself from potential harm, you're also sending a message that you refuse to be manipulated or coerced into something that goes against your values. Comment section is over now, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you found it insightful or relatable, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that notification bell to stay updated with more shocking and eye-opening real-life stories. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.